I will open the regular city council meeting. Start with the council reports. You have
Yes, on June 11th, I did the Western Healthcare Summit. There's a lot of discussion for Hoffman, Health System Alliance of Arizona gave their report on what they foresee coming. Basically, there's a lot of uncertainty with the grants and bills that have Medicare and Medicaid. What was interesting is, there's, to 3D polling. That's like way future, but I was really interested about that. The last thing is that I did the flag raising, already into their good anniversary of the Army, and that was really lovely job. Thank you. And then I also gone to the farmers market on Saturday at the square. Very nice.
excellent. No report. All right, James, so. Councilman Peter Watson.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, my advice, the Army celebration, the birthday celebration, that was a special place in my heart. It's both my dad and grandfather were Army. Doing his job. It's nice to see our country honored, the service of those people. And I also made the comment that people need to talk it up a little more. Because it'd be nice to see more publicly why they attend by public. So I mentioned, oh, I did this day there. Oh, I didn't know about that. It's posted, it's on city line, it's on our council. So, yeah. Well, I think it'd be a great thing for our communication class to be
See it up. I need a right on that.
It's okay. Set you up. Also attended a really fascinating event last Friday. Tolleson sponsored the visit from the group of some crazy makers and vice makers. And it was really interesting. A lot of people from the agenda, they were looking to see the difference in how our government systems operate and get an idea of West American, what it looks like in the cities, how they operate. A lot of interesting differences. Probably though the most, the thing that struck me the most came in conversation with one of the Ukrainian leaders, a young gal, like maybe 27 years old, but she was. And she said her big takeaway, she wishes the American people understood how much we have. And, that's been kind of the topic of conversation. That you don't really appreciate what you have to use. But she said she spent time listening to people complain about coffee not being hot enough. Traffic and the freeway, they just don't realize what it's like. She also spent a great deal of time talking about, she was from Key, talking about the impact of the integrity of elections, how the city dealt with the immediacy of these. Very interesting. And likewise, I attended the farmers markets Saturday morning on that bicycle. And you guys have done a great job. That's it.
I was fortunate enough to be to see the flag raising last Friday, and it was really nice. It's the first one I missed for a little bit, and it just made me appreciate what we do as a city. I think we do a really nice job with doing these events on a regular basis. I would love to see more people out there. This one was pretty well attended, but it always feels, you feel something in your heart when you see the flag go up and playing the different music for the Corps or for the, in this case, the Army. And we forget that the other branches are here as much as we do. There have to be a lot of Army people around. We always say it's all Air Force, and it's not. So it was really well done. Tricia, you and your team did a great job putting it together. I just love it when
Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor, you have a report.
I have nothing, Mayor. Thank you.
We haven't asked you why his, settlement so bad. Something with his RV and the location. And you think that's what I'm. Okay, so the consensus here is that your sound is bad and we can't hear you because it's your fault. I'll let you know about it.
Okay, thanks.
I heard you that, you said no report. I think you said.
No report. Yeah.
No report, sure. Okay, so we're taking this no report. I only have a short report. First, I want to thank staff. The was ceremony, it was rolled out by staff, two great problems with the honor guard. Folks that believe that they had to figure out what happened. But the first step is they all have, you have to learn correct, can't see us who they were. So we got first, we got to figure that out, but so. My comment was maybe you get a hold of your whole program. I don't know who's coming in presentation.
In any event, the program itself, even with the snafus by the honor guard, was very well done and it was reasonably well attended. So thank you to staff. I also want to thank Councilman Claire for taking care of the 250th birthday of the Army. I was not able to attend because I had dressing on the side of my head, a little operation on skin cancer operation. So I appreciate that you took on those duties for me, and I was happy to hear that we had several members of the council that were there. That is an important activity that we do for each of the birthdays of each of the services. So thank you for doing it, and I'm glad that it went well. With that concludes my report. We'll go on to the city manager. You have a report in your packet from the city manager. Are there any questions from council on any item, for the city manager? Is there any comment that you want to make in addition to what your report, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a few quick comments. First of all, we'd like to invite council members and the public to our Sparkle in the Square events. It's our first time for this event. That is on July 3rd from 6 to 9 p.m. We will have fireworks for that event as long as it's not too windy. We will have fireworks. But again, we invite you out to that again, Sparkle in the Square on July the 3rd. Please come to there if you are available. It's already mentioned the communications director, so we're happy to say that we have made a job offer for a communications director and she has accepted. I'm not going to say her name yet, but she will be starting shortly into July. So we look forward to her joining our staff. There's a lot of other information in your packet. I welcome any questions if you have any at this time.
Vice
Questions
Mayor.
from council? All right.
Vice Mayor.
The agenda a little bit out of order. Honored to have the presiding magistrate judge for the city of Avondale here, and the court clerk. We want to welcome them to our city and welcome the fact that they're going to be taking over the court operations for us. We have to get them sworn in this evening, but first we'd like to meet him. So if you'd like to say a word or two before you get sworn in.
Sure, thank you, Mayor.
For all the ethical things like to back down on you once you become presiding judge. I know I'd have to temper your comments. Just kidding.
Appreciate that. Mayor and Vice Mayor, if you can hear me, and council members, thank you. My name is Craig Jennings. I'm honored to be sworn in tonight as your presiding judge starting in July. Just a little bit about myself. I've been involved in the criminal law arena for almost 30 years. I started my career as a prosecutor with the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. And then for 13 and a half years, I was the city prosecutor for the city of Surprise before I was honored to be appointed as the presiding judge of the Avondale City Court back in August of 2014. So coming up on 11 years as the presiding judge. I'm honored to be joined tonight by our court administrator, Abril Ruiz Ortega. She is the person that makes everything go in our court. She's been with the city of Avondale and with the judiciary for over 31 years. So we're very fortunate to have her. We're looking forward to this relationship with the city of Litchfield Park. Customer service is always paramount to us for visitors to the court. And so if I can answer any questions, but we're happy to be here tonight.
Questions from council? Well, we're happy you're here. We're gonna get you sworn in. We look forward to this relationship being a very positive thing for both cities in terms of the efficiencies of having all of the court operations for both our city and Abigail City done in, within one court administration. Gonna save both cities some funds, some funding. And that's a good thing, and it does offer an opportunity for, maybe a little bit more efficient operation or application of our justice system for the people who have come before you. So we appreciate the fact that this looks like a very much a win-win situation for both of our cities. So welcome to Litchfield Park. We're happy to have you as our judge, and we'll get you sworn in.
Mayor, Your Honor,
Yes,
if I
we have to
could,
appoint him first, don't we?
point of order, yeah, if we could do the appointment
Okay.
first and then.
Okay, I guess we have to appoint you before we can swear you in. So is there a motion to approve the appointment of the Honorable Craig Jennings as our presiding judge for Litchfield Park?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We got an aye from the vice mayor. Any nays? All right, you're now appointed our judge, so now we'll swear you in.
Thank you.
Yes. I, Craig F. Jennings,
I, Craig L. Jennings,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
of the office of magistrate judge
of the office of magistrate judge
to the best of my ability, so help me God.
to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna go back to sort of normal order. We have a dignitary from Westmark here to accept a proclamation about Westmark. We're going out of order still. Yeah, we're gonna, it just seems like it might be more exciting.
Okay.
Keep everybody on touch.
Nervous.
Do you?
No.
Okay.
Getting on your toes.
Okay, so we're gonna go to the presentation 6B, Westmark Day Proclamation. I want to read a proclamation, and we have a Westmark representative to accept the proclamation and have a photograph with our Westmark representative and myself.
Yes,
I can be in the photo too.
you can be in the photograph.
All right, proclamation, City of Litchfield Park, Westmark Day. Whereas Westmark, the Western Maricopa Coalition, has been a vital regional organization for 35 years, uniting the public and private sectors to advocate for the economic vitality and quality of life in the West Valley. Whereas Westmark serves as a united voice of 15 communities, including Litchfield Park, representing municipalities, businesses, educational institutions, and nonprofit community leaders committed to shaping a prosperous future for the West Valley of Metro Phoenix. Whereas in 2025, Westmark unveiled a refreshed brand and a strategic vision to reflect the West Valley as an elevated, thriving, united, and opportunity-rich region. Whereas the date June 23rd symbolically reflects the 623 area code, June 623 area code, that spans much of the West Valley and serves as a proud geographic identifier for the region's residents and businesses. Whereas Westmark continues to be a catalyst for collaboration, innovation, and advocacy on key regional priorities such as economic development, education, workforce advancement, infrastructure, housing, and high quality of life. Now therefore, I, Thomas L. Shove, Mayor of the City of Litchfield Park, Arizona, do hereby proclaim June 23rd as Westmark Day and encourage all Litchfield Park residences, businesses, and community stakeholders to recognize and celebrate Westmark's enduring leadership, regional impact, and commitment to the prosperity of the West Valley. Dated this 18th day of June 2025. Thank you to Westmark. We have a proclamation for you to take with you, and we're gonna, I guess, take a picture.
Maybe soon we'll have communications person.
We'd have, yeah, if we had a communications person, we'd have four of us. Guess I'll come out here, so, otherwise the photo will mess up depth. If we won't be able to focus it properly. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well,
All right, now we have to get ourselves sort of back on order so we can keep track of this properly. So we're gonna go back now to call to the community. And we do have one request to speak. This is an opportunity for citizens to speak to the council on non-agenda items. I think it is called the community who's asked to speak on. So the speaker is Mr. Colin Barleycorn, former mayor of the city of Litchfield Park. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Colin Barleycorn, and I'm part of the Ray Circle. Wanted to say thanks to Keith. Friday the 6th was a very special day for the Barleycorn family because all of a sudden, when we walked out our front door, the front end of our house was flooding. All of a sudden, coming to go look out, and we had to pull the water out of our meter box, and guess what? The utility side, the street side of our service was leaking badly. And this is late on Friday the 6th. Always happens on a Friday afternoon, Fridays. So we called Liberty, and they, as soon as they heard it was on their side of the meter, they were right there. They were outside there finding out exactly what's going on. And they said specifically that they probably won't be able to get to it until the next Thursday because of they said specifically that the permitting issues at Litchfield Parks is very, very difficult to get through. I said, okay, that's the kind of history here. But come Monday morning, come to find out that Keith had given them the permit over the weekend immediately. So I want to say thank you to Keith very much on being able to get that done. It was great. They were out there Monday morning and they worked through Monday and Tuesday to get the service restored. So thank you, Keith, very much.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you to Keith for going above and beyond. It's very important as a general policy within the city to be as responsive to community needs, citizen needs, resident needs. And so I'm happy that we were able to respond in a way that was helpful to you, although I'm sure it was still a difficult weekend. Well, I'm glad that we were able to do our part, so. Good. All right. Anybody else like to address the council during the call to community? Okay, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, which is we have already done one of our presentations, but we're going to do the other presentation. And as everyone on council knows, I give the same speech every quarter, and that is that this is one of the most important things that we do as a council, is to recognize our employee of the quarter. The employee of the quarter is a person picked, it's a non-management person picked by the fellow workers within the city, fellow staff, as the most important person this quarter in terms of the staff getting their jobs done and keeping our residents happy with what we're doing for them. And there were a number of very good candidates this quarter. The candidate to one is Alex Rascon, Maintenance Technician Supervisor. So we have a certificate for him and we have an extra day off. If he wants to come up here now, if you don't come up here. If you didn't come up here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
When you get a picture, Alex. Sure.
Okay, so now we go to our report section. We have Goodyear Fire Report from Chief Uzi.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Paul Louisi, Fire Chief, City of Goodyear. Tonight I am here to talk about the incidents that occurred in May. So, looking at the call record, we had 66 incidents last month, which is slightly down from years past. 61 of those calls were EMS or medical related, so about 92%. For the care homes, Las Cruces had 1, which is the lowest I think we've ever seen. And then Loma had 15. So all were transports out of those facilities. I have reached out to Loma just to have them review those cases, but otherwise, nothing that stood out for me on the last month's report. So I'm available for any questions.
Okay, questions from council?
Vice Mayor.
Question? Nice clean report. Thank you for coming down and seeing us.
Absolutely. Enjoy seeing you guys.
Please pass on our appreciation to all the guys that work for us. We know the guys that we're in good hands, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay, brings us to the Avondale Litchfield Park Police Report, Sergeant Emmerich.
Evening, Mayor Council, Sergeant Emmett with Avondale PD, here to do the monthly report for the month of May. So calls for service for the month of May, we had 418, which is up from 340 in 2024. Again, a lot of that was being very proactive. Our citizen calls have been about the same. We had our traffic stops went up from 56 to 126 for the month. And then citations obviously went up with that as well, from 17 to 32. We've been doing a lot more business checks, checking on the homestead a lot with all the construction going on. We went up from 74 to 99. And our breakdown of the calls was 72% officer and 28% citizen. Other than that, nothing really stood out too much on the report for me. Is any big incidences this month? Does anybody have any questions for me?
Questions from council?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. Officer Kendall, my grandchildren were here and we were eating down at Papa Paul's when the youngest, who is enamored of anyone who works for the police department or the fire department, decided it was time to leave. So he and I went out and visited with Officer Kendall, who let him climb inside the car and see all the exciting stuff. And so thank you very much for allowing us to do that.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you very much for your service to our community. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Keep those traffic guys out there working hard.
Definitely saying that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our staff reports. Do we have a finance report? Ms. Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Mayor, if you don't mind, if I could just quickly introduce the special guest out here tonight, Ms. Ella Gray. She's a local resident that grew up in the city. She's attending ASU and she reached out to us to see if she could spend a little time with me to learn about city finances and the city as a whole. So we also wanted to attend the council meeting tonight just to see how things go. So I just wanted to welcome her and just recognize her being here and having such an input in the city. As far as the finance report goes, there is a detailed report in your packet. I don't have anything to add to it unless there are any questions.
Questions from council? Okay, thanks for your report. Well done. Next item is Keith is gonna report on contamination, plume update, and capital improvement projects.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the reports for PJ North and South, as well as Luke Air Force Base, are in the packet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I
Questions?
have one question.
Councilman?
Thank you. I noticed that you said that we should know more in June about the loop. Is that correct? So what will that tell us?
Thank you, council member. We don't know exactly because this will be the first round of data, but this will be the available data from when they sampled in March. It takes quite a while from their labs, whoever the government's using for the labs, and they have contracts. They actually had a kind of a little snafu with their contracted samplers during this time, so it kind of added time. That's what I'm hearing. And as part of that, they were able to come back out this month and get another round so that we should have another set here in 2 months after that. So we'll have hopefully closer data, but we'll be hearing from them on limits, depth, quantity of any potential PFAS or PFOA in our groundwater.
Do they anticipate it to be more or less than what we're dealing with the other one? Do you have any idea?
I have tried every way to ask a question in different ways. They have this sampling effort is for them to locate the limits. So there's a chance that they might come back and say, yeah, it's really heavy. We need to go another quarter-mile south and do more wells, or non-detect. We don't find anything. Let's go north into the Loma Homestead, or north of the Palm Valley or the Liberty facility, and try to cast a net under the hole. So this is actually the discovery phase of the monitoring.
Guess we'll stay tuned for August then.
And this is a process that's probably gonna take a year, just to figure out where is the plume. So it's not gonna happen in a short period. And it is, the chemicals involved are different, and the issues with cleaning them up are different than the plume that is to our south. They're not related at all. And they're different. I mean, literally, they're different chemicals. The plumes come about because of generally getting these chemicals on the ground. But in the case of the plume that's to the south, the company there actually had dry wells dug into the ground, so they could not just only put the chemical on the ground, but they could actually dump the chemical into the groundwater itself. So that plume ended up being a lot potentially more significant than it might have been if that material had just been put on the ground. This PFAS is more it's just been put on the ground from runoff off of the runways and things like that. So it's just it's a different animal.
Thank you.
And I can report that Liberty Utilities has also provided an update that they're going to give us some of their data. So the wells that they have operating to the east of Dysart, Litchfield and Dysart roads, they have detected this forever chemical in some manner of numbers. So they think the plume is in a direction heading towards the river bottom, and that this effort to go along Camelback and in our park is to see how far south it went instead of heading east. So Liberty will be hopefully sharing some of that information.
The big concern is that the PFAS is in a number of their wells. And the real question now is, before the changes that are going on at the EPA, there were requirements for this to be taken out of our drinking water in a relatively short period of time, which is a big undertaking for these different water utilities to do that because of the filtering they have. Now, we don't know for sure if they're gonna have to get it out as quickly, and we don't know for sure what the allowable level is gonna be. So there's a lot of question marks about it that probably are at least as important as whether the plume exists and how big it is. I mean, we know that it's in the area where our drinking water comes from Liberty, and that's a bad thing. Sorry to interrupt.
Appreciate it. Any other questions? Capital improvement projects have the updates in the binder. A lot of things going on, a lot of things up on the hilltop, as we all know. I'd be happy to answer any questions, concerns.
Just one question. Are we at the point where we have an agreement on what's gonna be done to maintain the cart path on, to the west of the underpass? Do we know what's going on there yet, or is it still questionable what they're gonna do?
Mr. Mayor, we've been going back and forth with Wigwam Palm staff on that issue, sir. And we'd made a recommendation on the bottom 5 feet, basically to go ahead and mill and overlay the bottom 5 feet and come back and slurry seal it a year later. That is my latest offer, but I have not heard back from Wigwam staff on that offer just yet, sir. That was as of yesterday.
With crack sealing or no crack sealing?
With crack sealing, yes, sir. But at that time, they didn't want to rebuild that 5 feet closest to the bridge, which is some of the worst section. So hopefully they come back with us and we'll agree to go ahead and do that section, crack seal it and slurry seal a year from
Okay,
now.
so start over. They're gonna mill and overlay the section that's not near the underpass. It's near the cement sidewalks.
They're gonna mill and overlay the section that's up near the cache, but it
Right.
needs to be milled and overlaid near the bridge also, and they don't want to do that section right now.
Okay, so you've asked them to mill and overlay the section that's near the underpass.
Yes, sir. Basically both ends, the middle part can be just resealed basically, but both ends need to be mill and overlaid again. And right now, they're not wanting to mill and overlay the section closest to the bridge.
Yeah, the last offer was to mill and replace the top 20 feet, crack seal and type 2 slurry seal the remaining, and not replace the 5 feet near the bridge where the concrete meets, and that's some of the worst potholing. So the euphemism I told Matthew was like replacing 3 of the 4 bulb tires on the car.
And what they're doing is not even really, you can't even describe it as good band-aiding. All right. Excuse me. Any other questions for Keith on our capital improvement program?
Comment, the underpass over here is beautiful. I hadn't had the opportunity to go through it until the kids were here. And we crossed the street that way and nice and smooth and
Absolutely, and I gotta thank Kyle for that and Public Works, those guys keep good care of that underpass.
yeah, it's nice.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Durinsky. All right, next item is special projects update. Mr. Proch. Am I saying that correctly, Proch?
Approach,
Approach,
Roger
yeah.
approach. Yes, except if we were in Poland, they'd say it differently.
What was that?
If we were in Poland, they'd say it differently, but we're not.
How would they say it in Poland?
They say Pol, yeah,
Pole?
yeah,
Okay.
essentially.
I'm
Anyways,
half Polish, so I thought maybe I'd recognize it, but I don't.
quick tangent. Perhaps we're related way back when. Mayor, members of council, thank you, for this time. Based on the discussions last month, this monthly report from myself has been updated to reflect the past 4 weeks and the next 4 weeks of sorts, as well as the Gantt chart, which is a comprehensive tracking of all 27 projects that are currently underway. Be happy to answer any questions regarding La Loma, regarding the square, or regarding the Thomas projects.
Questions from council? So I'm never gonna get off that simple.
That's fine.
You're the custodian of the Gantt chart.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and we are making progress as required on each of these steps within these projects to get them done on time through August of next year.
I am no dentist, but it's been a lot of pulling teeth with our partners in this. Certainly, we are the face of the project as far as the city goes. However, considering PW Litchfield, Alva Fria, Sun Health, McCarthy, Maricopa County Library District, we orchestrate as best we can to head to our deadlines, and I will get a haircut once all these projects are done.
That's good.
He's gonna be like ZZ Top.
I think it would be helpful if when you bring the Gantt chart back,
Yes.
that you report on exceptions. So if there are things in the Gantt chart that we're falling behind on, that's gonna impact the schedule, I think we need to know about those.
Thank you. I'd be happy to provide that information verbally. We had a standing meeting with the McCarthy team who was contacted the school district. So we met with the school district, McCarthy, and ourselves, as well as the architects and engineers of that project today. I think they saw the site as if they were buying a car on Carvana, when they should have gone to the car dealership and kicked tires. They're realizing the complexities of a site that's not flat, a site that has overhead electric lines running through it, and a site that has drainage concerns. So I can generally say that they are somewhat around 2 weeks behind their schedule as far as what they're hoping to accomplish. We can certainly work on our side through every possible means to accelerate that back on time for them.
Yeah, I guess that's probably what we as a council need to understand each month is what items are we behind in a way that may impact the schedule? And what steps are there steps the city can do to help get this back on schedule? And does McCarthy, who's the general, do they acknowledge the fact that they've got to take steps to get it back on schedule?
Mayor, they do. And, you know, I think it's a new process for a school district to have city oversight. Normally they are somewhat exempt from us, except for life safety measures and fire department needs. So it's been a bit of a learning exercise for them as well. Certainly, I think we are speed dial free on their phones as far as just getting a hold of us, morning, noon, night, even weekends, as it were.
Okay. Sounds good. If there's something the council can do to help support you, let us know.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Tonight is just, I had the opportunity to tour the tallest and brand new library. I think they're in their new building. It was built a year or so ago. And the head librarian explained or showed me how short they were on storage space. And I think that would be something really wise for us to take a look at, because we are talking about being able to provide additional programming. And it's the programming supplies that seem to take up so much space over there. But it might be worth the design team taking a few minutes to go through and look at what they have there. They have some spaces that are really usable and some spaces that aren't really usable.
Thank you. I will pass it along.
Thank you.
I have one comment as well. Thank you. In our city charter, we have a provision in there that talks specifically about a report on water conservation or any other sustainability efforts. And so I would just like to ask that you consider that when you're designing the landscaping for the hilltop, and that we're being mindful of sustainability and conservation efforts in that design landscape.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, thank you for your, thank you for your report.
Look forward to your hair.
We were looking at Forrest Gump in one of these days. Magistrate court is in your packet. If you have any questions about it, please get with the city manager. Brings us to our consent agenda, item 8A through G. Is there any member of the council who would like to take any item on the consent agenda off of the consent agenda for further discussion?
And Mayor, they could add items to the consent agenda if they would like.
Thank you for your help, but no, they can't do that. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda item 8A through G?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Vice Mayor, I can't see you.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any nays? Consent agenda is adopted unanimously. Takes us to our normal business. We've got already items A and B dealt with. Which takes us to a public hearing on the city budget. I'll call the public hearing to, I don't know, call a public hearing to order? Not really, do you? Is that what we call it, Mr. City Manager? Call a public hearing open, call it open.
Open.
Declare it open.
Yes, sir.
The public hearing is open. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Since the tentative budget adoption, the overall expenditure budget did not change. The final state revenue estimates came out and they were $65,359 lower than the initial estimate. So I went ahead and decreased revenue by that amount. And that was the only change since the tentative adoption. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Is there any public comment on the proposed city budget for fiscal year 26? Seeing none, I declare that the public hearing is now closed. So according to the agenda, we're gonna do these public hearings, two public hearings instead of adopting right away. So we'll go to our second public hearing. Second public hearing is now open on the Streetlight Improvement District. Is there a staff presentation?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There's been no change to the budget or the tax levy request since the tentative adoption. However, I did realize today that I made an error in Exhibit A that's in your packet. The tax levy request column should actually be 46,255 for slid number 1, 209,959 for slid number 2, and $58,067 for slid number 3, which is included in the attached budget and was included in the published documents.
Any further presentation by staff?
No, that's it.
All right, is there any member of the public that would like to say anything about the Streetlight Improvement District slids 1, 2, and 3 for fiscal year 26? Okay, the hearing is now closed. Next item is the adoption of resolution 25-586, our fiscal year 2026 budget for the city. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on the resolution, the proposed resolution? If not, is all those in favor of adopting resolution 25-586, which is the fiscal year 2026 final budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, resolution is adopted. Next item is a consideration of resolution 25-587, which is the final streetlight improvement district slids 1, 2, and 3 budgets for fiscal year 2026. We need a motion to adopt resolution 25-587 with the understanding that exhibit A being corrected to show on slid number 1, the fiscal year tax levy request is $46,255. Slid number 2, the request, is $209,959. And slid number 3, the request is $58,067. Is there a motion to that effect? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the resolution 25-587 for slid final budgets fiscal year 26 as amended by the correct levy amounts, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Next item is a consideration of resolution 25-588, which is a designation of Ms. Peterson as our Chief Financial Officer for purpose of submitting the expenditure limitation report for fiscal year 2026 to the Office of the Arizona Auditor General. Is there a motion to adopt resolution? Second. Any discussion on the resolution? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, resolution is adopted. Excuse me. Next item is a presentation of the fiscal year 2026 salary range schedule and position roster. Ms. Peterson, do you have a report?
Mayor, I think we skipped the citywide fee schedule, or unless you would just like me to jump to this one and then go back to.
Sorry, what?
Skipped over item H, the citywide fee schedule.
Oh, you're right. I marked it out and didn't do it. So we'll come back to it.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Every year we present to you the fiscal year salary range schedule and position roster. The details are in your packet for each one, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council on the salary range schedule or the position, number of positions of people who will be working for the city for 2026? Mr. Vice Mayor? Okay.
Nothing.
No,
So is there a motion to adopt resolution 25-589? That's the wrong one. I'm sorry. Motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 salary range, schedule, and position roster. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we'll go back to the citywide fee schedule, resolution 25-589. Is there a motion? Is there a motion to adopt the citywide fee schedule, resolution 25-589?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the fee schedule? Questions? No? All right, all those in favor of adopting the fee schedule in 25-589, resolution 25-589, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Okay, next is a consideration of resolution 25-291, which is HR 3021 policy amendment. I was going to ask if there was a presentation, but apparently there is.
There is no presentation, however, a document was provided in your packet. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Are there any questions on this, these amendments to our policy, our HR policy? Mr. Vice Mayor, any questions? All right, if not, is there a motion to adopt resolution 25-291 HR-3021 policy amendments? Okay, we got three moves. We got a second? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, resolution 25-291 is adopted. Next item is a consideration of the Litchfield Square parking garage. We have an update from Mr. Broach.
Mayor, members of council, this is I'm gonna take your breath away in just a second.
It took my breath away at first, man. I wasn't sure what you were doing. I looked up.
See if I can, okay, let's come back to it. This is item 9K. This is an update on Litchfield Square parking garage. For the record, Randy Proch, your planning director. When we last spoke with you, we had a number of different alternatives as far as the garage placement. We got some good feedback and good direction from this group, and we are back with an update to that. Now, just again, for the record and for all those tuning in, this is not any expenditure on design, engineering, or construction. This is simply an alternatives analysis that we have hired a consultant to work through with us to figure out the right placement and the right size. So this is an update to that effort for your discussion this evening. Now, if there was a desire to move forward, you'll see that we have two requests for this evening. At a future council date, we would bring forward a positive compact. So again, tonight, there are two requests for you. We have three options, A, B, and C, for your consideration as far as a final placement and size discussion. And the second request for this evening is an authorization to bring forward a contract at a future date for the garage's design and engineering based on which option we're looking to go forward with. So, three options, and there are exhibits, and this is almost verbatim from the packet this evening, so I'll just go through it for you. Option A is to build, let's call it the phase 1 garage, and I have a picture on the next page that describes these words. It's approximately 285 parking stalls. These are the 10-foot by 20-foot parking stalls that we all enjoy at the Fry's Marketplace that make things a little easier for everyone, let's just call it. And would add a phase 2 garage, which is an additional 190 spots at a future date. The total would be 475 stalls. Option B would be just to build phase one, phase two together as one large facility right now. Obviously, an increased cost. Option C is to build only the small garage. It's called only the phase one garage as a final design. It's 285 stalls. And then hedge our bets to see what it's going to be like in the future. So phase one, phase two, for those checking out the image, and I apologize why it's so ghosty. I'm not sure why. It's directly located north of the Heritage Partners site, the Akamazo site. This is north of Village Parkway. Underneath the word phase two, and somewhere around the word parking would be the Scout Lounge. That's currently under a moving across the street effort that we're all working on even today, earlier this afternoon. This phase one would be, let's call it the east side. Come on, there we go. The east side of the lot. I'm gonna switch over to that one instead. The east side of the lot, Fairway Drive is just off screen. You can see it hiding behind that word. This is Akamazo's parking lot. This is the Rodolfo parking lot. Phase one again is on the east side. If we were to go with option B or a future phase, that would extend it along that area. The big thing to note, and we'll see it here on the next slide, is that there is a water line. That is the Airline Canal. We had previously buried and rerouted that Airline Canal on the Woody Scouting days in order to facilitate, excuse me, this exact garage footprint in this exact location. The option A again is to just do the 285 stall garage. Option B, the bigger garage, or the future phase as part of option A, would then need to reroute that Airline Canal again. Hopefully all the distractions are gone.
Well, can you go back just, I was getting distracted a little, so I'm not.
I was too.
The canal needs to be moved again.
So Mayor, the option C, build the little garage and be done, or option A, build phase one, does not require the canal to be moved at this time. If we were to go with option B, the full garage, we'd need to move it now. If we go with option A to do the future phase in the future, we'll need to move the canal in the future.
All right.
And then here as well, you can see a bit of a cross section. This is 2 stories in the sense that there are 2 levels above the ground to park on. This is about 35 feet in height because you can park on the ground, let's call it, on the roof of the first story and on the roof of the second story. This also gives an opportunity to do a half basement underneath that first ramp, to do halfway underneath.
The facade on this will be 3 stories, above, like 39 feet.
Mayor, it depends on the exact final placement of it. We do want to be cognizant of the fact that we do not want to look up and see any of that car. It should have the appearance as though it is a building.
Right.
So yes, there is a opportunity to hide it to the best of our ability while still maintaining the appropriate heights between each floor.
Okay.
This is option B, the 475 stall, or you could call it the phase 2 of option A, to be done on a future date. Essentially what it does, and I'll go the before and after, those last row of stalls that are running north and south essentially disappear as the rest of the garage expands upon it. The rest of the garage has the great opportunity to not need to do additional ramping. All the ramping is handled at that initial phase. So this becomes just pure parking as it goes to the west. All the ramping again is on the east. This does give an opportunity for an additional inbound and outbound maneuver on La Loma Avenue between lots 2 and lot 3. Now, our recommendation for you this evening, and we do have one, and we'd be happy to adjust or pivot if need be, is to go with option A. That is to build the first phase the 285 stalls when we're ready. And certainly this isn't a discussion in order for you to construct, nor is it a discussion in order for you to approve design and engineering. However, if the council feels as though option A is the right option to do a two-phased garage, our second request for you this evening would be to direct staff to enter into a contract discussion with a consultant to start the design and engineering work. That contract would be brought before you again to consider it for approval in order for us to go forward with that idea. It was a little wordy, but I'd be happy to answer any questions on this first item of mine.
See a hand go up over here? No?
Not yet.
So, excuse me, if we design this first phase for the 285, second phase is basically extending the floors that already exist on phase one. Correct? We're not
Mayor.
gonna do no new ramps, nothing like it, just the floor is gonna go from 200 feet long to 400 feet long.
Mayor, that is exactly correct. The facade on that west side would essentially be shaved off and it would just be extended straight across. And this is something our consultant that we use the site alternatives analysis for is very familiar with and is a popular model.
So, excuse me, option A is your assumption that at the end of option A, we'll end up with a design that gives us the drawings we would need to build the first phase and the drawings that we would need to build the addition.
Mayor, that is correct. Now, depending on when that second phase is needed, and we certainly hope it's soon, but if not, we would probably enter into somewhat of a dusting off of those plans on an annual basis, just to make sure that seals haven't expired and those plans are still ready to go and when we need to move forward.
All right. Any other questions from council?
I have a quick question.
Councilman Claire?
So if we go with option A, any idea of this, the cost difference between going with option A versus option B, which is build it all out?
Mayor, Councilmember Claire, yes, we have a ballpark idea for you. The initial phase is right around 10 million. If we were to do both phases together, the option B, it's around 16 million. I gesture broadly to hopefully emphasize the point. There is a cost escalation if we were to wait later to build the second phase, but the difference we feel, and through analysis, very preliminary analysis, is somewhat of around $2 million. So either it's 10 million today, 8 million in the future, phase one, phase two, or 16 million altogether today to build the big garage option.
And how do is the western end of the building, if we go with option A, is the western end of the building, excuse me, completely closed off with facade and then they take that off?
Councilmember Claire, that is correct. It probably wouldn't be as pristine as the other three sides because it's a interim step. However, no one should be any the wiser that it can pop off and be expanded.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, excuse me, what we need to do is give you direction on which one of these options to pursue, bringing us back in contract for the design, correct?
Mayor, that is your discretion as this body, and we would certainly appreciate that support. Yes.
So I would suggest that we authorize them to bring us back a design contract for option A. And, with the idea, and the reason for that is that this decision on how many spots to put in this garage is going to be driven by two main considerations and maybe to some extent by a third one. First one is how many parking spaces do we really need in this garage, which we won't know until we get a little further along with development. Second phase is how much can we afford to pay for, both in terms of cash that we can generate, funds we can generate, strategies we can use to deal with expenditure limitations, there's a whole variety of financial analysis that needs to be done that may tell us we can't build a 485 space garage, that we have to do it in two stages just from financial reasons. Then I think the third one is we need to take a look and see what this thing's gonna look like sitting on this particular place in our community. The total of the two phases is significantly more massive than what was ever anticipated would be sitting on this residential street. So we can get a better idea, I think, once we get a design, we can see what the facades look like. Get some, an architect to actually give us some renderings that give us a feel for what's the streetscape gonna feel like. So all of those things mean that we need to get the design work done on it so we can figure it out. And I think the best way to go about that is option A. So that's what I say. Is there any further discussion or any other ideas that the council has on this? Alan.
I agree with option A. I think we can't predict the future, but it's good to put the plan in place in case we need it. And if we don't need it, then great, we've potentially saved ourselves $8 million down the road.
James.
And we really can't get to option A without really starting with option C, which is kind of like the intermediary step, C to get to A. Because that's where, I mean, I look at it and it's like, for all the points that the mayor just listed, Lincoln Canals and this, that, and the other, we started with option C, but obviously we planned for option A. So I feel like when you come to us with that direction, we see the renderings, then we can make an informed decision as a council and say, okay, because I mean, for all we know, we've got potentially 3 of the major lots. Who knows when we get the next lot or the 5th lot or the 6th lot? Who knows what the parking? I mean, we have ideas and plan, but nothing's predictable. It could be 5, 6, 7 years before we get to the point where that expansion, hopefully not, but makes sense. So I support option A, but with the understanding that it essentially we start with option C to get to A.
Okay.
Any other comments? If not, is there a motion to give direction to staff regarding seeking an engineering consultant to design the parking garage along option A, the option A process?
So moved.
Perfect. Second. Okay, any further discussion? Everybody understand that? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Mr. Vice Mayor?
Aye.
I think he's an aye. All right, motion passes. Bring us back potential contract for an engineering consultant for option A. Excuse me. Next item is a consideration of Litchfield Square Wigwam Boulevard parking. Coach.
Mayor, third of 4 presentations for me this evening. This is item 9L. This is the Litchfield Square Wigwam Boulevard on-street parking opportunity. We are exploring every nook and cranny that makes sense to put parking to alleviate any concerns in La Casa Linda to the south of Litchfield Square or any other locations, say on Fairway Drive or, further east on Wigwam towards Neil, to find opportunities for additional parking. Now, this is a precursor to the next item that is regarding lots 13 and 14. Marcy's here and will certainly take direction on this item first as part of the next item, foreshadowing a bit too much. Now, we have 3 options for you again, A, B, and C, and along with the direction on which option you prefer best, it'd be authorization to brief forward a contractor design and engineering on this on-street parking idea. Now, lots 13 and 14 have a parking shortage, and somewhat this is on purpose. We've done something similar with lots 3 and 4. They are doing a temporary parking, surface parking on the Scout Lodge area. For lots 1 and 2, we have worked out an agreement through their development agreement. For lots 13 and 14, which we're going to show the preliminary designs next on the next item. As part of their solution for their shortage, there's opportunities to improve Wigwam Boulevard along their property's frontage But at the same time, it would behoove us to look at a holistic approach on Wigwam Boulevard and do this once. So there are three options, and they are varying in design and direction. That could be an increase of parking capacity and certainly at a lower cost as well than the garage. And a supplement bonus is possible speed mitigations as we would narrow the streets, but also expand the streets. But I'll talk about that in the next few slides. Three options in your packet, and here on this slide, option A is, it's called the most straightforward, the least impactful, but the lowest number. It would be to only construct 11 parallel spaces, and the city would construct 16 angled spaces on Old Litchfield Road. I'd like to point out the asterisk now. This is a CIP project that was previously approved. This is for the area in front of the dentist's office to improve parking there, as well as the old bus bay in front of the tennis courts on Old Litchfield Road to convert those to angled parking as well. So this would be part of a bigger project to look at this as one. Option B is for 18 angled spaces. That's what's shown on the next presentation as part of Marcy's submittal. And we would construct about 38 spaces on Wigwam Boulevard, along with the bus bay redo on Old Litchfield Road. The only change between B and C is a thought that we've seen and we've received feedback on the reverse angling. Essentially, instead of angling in, you essentially go past the parking spot and back in. This is a relatively modern idea. I don't know that I've seen, or I can speak for Keith on this, that we've actually seen this in real life get implemented. A lot of people talk about it, but get a little shy on the idea of something that's radically different than what people are used to. As far as the imagery goes, this is, again, option A. The parallel spaces would only be in front of our city hall and in front of lot 14. The reason that this is even being considered for you and for your discussion is this is ready to go, in the sense of it does not require significant reconstruction. In front of City Hall today, there's a bit of grass and some parking blocks. Parking blocks come right out, grass gets removed, and essentially we can fit in these parallel spaces as presented. You'll see over here next to the tennis courts, the already approved CIP project for the angled spaces as just a continuation on Old Litchfield Road. The other thing that this prevents is any sort of median modifications. The medians today were expanded a number of years ago in order to slow down traffic. We've increased the grass, we've increased the irrigation that goes to these, we've installed new trees. None of that would have to change with option A. The other thing that comes up, and I'm showing this as a precursor to the next image, is something to consider as far as any sort of angled parking spaces on Wigwam Boulevard. Again, is the La Casa Linda condos have very large windows, and putting headlights into those windows are not ideal. If you've driven on Wigwam Boulevard, there's a screen wall that we installed across La Loma Avenue that is addressing this concern. So certainly either one of the angled parking spaces would require an expansion of that screen wall across all of these windows to ensure privacy and no sort of visual blight into those homes. So this is option B. Option B is the angled parking. What it does require is rebuilding of radiuses and those curves. Today, and I'll just show you this image again, you cannot fit a car in that depth, meaning the car sticks out into that lane of traffic. It's not ideal to have a curb be short of that car and have that car somewhat sticking out into the roadway. So this would require us to rebuild those curbs you can see highlighted at each one of these intersections to basically hug those angled parking spaces like we've done within Litchfield Square. The other thing highlighted in red is the old limits of the medians, and these would be a little bit more svelte, a little more tucked in order to maintain proper fire access. The reality of the situation is when you have a median, they call it a divided highway. When you have a divided highway, it means you have to have 20 feet free and clear for that fire truck on either side. We had to do this in Litchfield Square. That's why there are bike lanes. Essentially, they're eating space, and I'm a cyclist, but they're eating space in order to skinny up the travel lane because it has to be 20 feet on either side. The reason for that is if there was to be an accident on either side of the median and they have to close the road, they can route traffic 10 feet each direction, you know, and that way they can take care of it on one side of the median. So it's a bummer in the sense of, you know, you end up still having a 20-foot wide road, which doesn't discourage speeding by any means. It somewhat encourages faster travel when you do have such a wide space. And then to mitigate this, we would be installing bike lanes. It's a long way to say there are pros and cons to all of these options. And then option C, this is in the hocus pocus, the angles of those parking spaces just flipped from forward into back in. Now, our recommendation for you is we still feel as though option B, the angled parking, is the best, you know, bang for the buck, the best investment that we can do. It certainly is already provided in design for lots 13 and 14 in front of their parcels. We still feel as though this is the most impactful way we can not only increase on-street parking at a lower cost, but also by having the angled parking and people backing in and going into the spaces and adding the bike lanes, we do feel as though it's 20 feet wide, we can slow down traffic a bit more in this design. And again, this would complement well with the improvements on Old Litchfield and from the dentist. So our recommendation is to support option B, the angled parking, and to direct us to enter into a contract for design and engineering on the on-street parking. And be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from council?
They're to your right.
Councilman McLaren.
So B and C is gonna take out all the trees on the south side of Wigwam. So we're gonna lose all the greenery on the south side, as well as we have to build a wall for that. There's no greenery on the north side. Is there a way to split the baby and do the angled parking on the north side and not affect the south side?
Mayor, Councilman Claire, yes, along with the trees, the grass would also be lost on the south side, as well as a vertical metal obstruction that would change the character of the south side of the street. Yes, the north side of the street does have grass today. All that grass in front of City Hall and in front of further east towards the restaurants, it would also be removed in either scenario on the north side. Either the parallel spaces would take up that grass or the angled spaces would take up that grass.
Are we seeing an absolute need, an immediate need for this amount of parking in the uses that we have right now? Or is this amount of parking needed for future use as we see the building 13 and 14 or lots 13 and 14 filling?
Thank you. That's a good way to help me realize I provided an incomplete description. Because lots 13 and lot 14 will be doing the construction now, this was an opportunity to do construction once. However, should only the spots in front of lot 13 and lot 14 be addressed today, I cannot cut just the two medians. All of the medians would have to be cut and impacted. Otherwise, you'd be doing a bit of a ski slalom trying to go around the medians as they would ebb and flow. So it gets back to the idea of, if it's going to be changed and amended, is it better to replant the grass, redo the irrigation, make the effects now, or just the minimal impact along the lots 13 and 14 and reevaluate this in the future?
And based upon the DA with the Pointer Group, they need 18 spaces. So that's part of this activity, right?
Correct. Councilmember Claire, we are in discussions on the DA. The DA has not been brought forward at this time, is under consideration. We hope to show the preliminary design, bring the final design of the sale of the land and the DA as part of the August agenda. Hoping.
Yes, sir.
But we'll get there.
Councilman Watson.
I have concerns about what this does to the aesthetics of La Casa Linda, because they lose if I'm understanding you correctly, they lose the grass, they lose the trees, and we're left with a sidewalk and screen walls, which is gonna make that very industrial feeling. And kind of, I think, has a negative impact on that neighborhood.
Councilmember Watson, it is certainly a radical change as this downtown is evolving every day. And if we've missed the mark, if this is something that is too much too soon, we can certainly reevaluate and look at other options, as well as if the parallel spaces on the north side make more sense as far as less impact to the center medians as well. That's something that can be part of the DA discussions, as well as they provide a lower amount instead of the 18 stalls.
Yeah, it would be a shame to lose those trees, quite frankly. Grass, probably would be a shame to lose the grass too, but the trees for sure. And I'm wondering if you kept parallel parking just in the front of the two condo blocks on the south side. You know, I can't, it's hard to count this from here, but I'm gonna guess you're gonna lose maybe 15 total spaces. So you have parallel parking on the north side of the condos only, and then you did all the rest of this. It'd be nice to know how many spaces are we really talking about? But we could always go back and do those. We can always go back and do the angled parking if we decide that the angled parking is just much more valuable than the trees and the grass. It's not like we've precluded ourselves. If we go ahead and make the changes to the medians, quite frankly, when we widen the medians, we always understood we were going to narrow them again in the future, because we thought there would be angled parking at least on the north side, not necessarily on the south side. So if we went ahead and narrowed the medians back up, and we did the angled parking on the north side, and we did the angled parking on the south side across the street from just where the dentist is, basically, and where the library is. And then left those two in the middle as parallel parking. We can always go back if we decided we had to have 10 more spaces, we could fix it.
Do we, in that though, do we still take the trees and grass out?
No, we leave the trees and grass. We leave on, in front of the
Condos.
I think we have parallel parking there anyway.
Okay.
There's a lot of room there.
And Mayor, if I may be so bold, to make a suggestion for this conversation. The good news about the spot in front of the library, or the dentist's office, is that is already a previously approved CIP project. So even if this item is tabled this evening, that can still move forward independently of this. The bus bay conversion can still move independently of this. Any sort of changes on the north side as part of lot 13 and lot 14, tonight's discussion on the next item is a preliminary design. We will bring forward a final design. So we do have opportunity over the next 2 months to evaluate a modified option, option D, let's call it, and bring that for you in August in concert with the efforts of the adjacent parcel.
I mean, the best approach.
Can you just confirm what option D is, so we're all on the same page?
Sure, if I have heard correctly, option D, and we'll represent this for you tonight, is to continue on with the CIP projects in front of the dentist's office and the bus bay on Old Litchfield Road. It would be to add parallel parking in a formal sense in front of La Casa Linda along Esperanza, Inca, and Desert Avenue. And then the angled spaces on lot 13 and lot 14 in front of City Hall on the north side of Sec 1. Now, I can't say with certainty without doodling and talking with Keith how that all works with the center medians, but I can better explain this and show this at our next council meeting.
That makes sense.
Amend option D to potentially also include the possibility of angled parking in front of condos, but accepting out some of those trees as islands. So you could reduce the number of angled parking spaces, but maybe have more than you would in a parallel sense, but you would still keep most or all of the trees. Looking at the satellite, you could probably remove a couple and still fit in quite a few parking spaces while leaving the tree canopy in place.
Certainly, Councilmember Fraser, I can see what the net is on both those options to see if it's a wash essentially, and we can preserve the trees.
All right, Mayor. So at this point,
A quick note, sir. I would agree. I think we could definitely build angled on the north side. We could put the median on a diet on both sides. We could build parallel there north of the condos. Just one point to throw out. I certainly understand the concern of losing trees and losing grass. I agree with Councilmember Frazier. You could certainly plant some trees or save some trees on the islands and get some shade too. But for every spot we don't build a wigwam, it's a spot you'll build in a garage. So I don't know what it would cost to build these spots, but your garage spaces are 35,000 a piece. So say, for example, I don't know, but say it's gonna cost
we move this on.
10,000 a space, Keith?
There's room for it.
Five, okay. Keith just say it's 5,000 a space. It would cost you about 5,000 a space to build these. It'll cost you 35,000 a space to build them a garage. So just understand that every space you don't build here, you'll pay 30,000 more per space built in a garage. So if you're talking about a loss of 15 spaces, it's a substantial.
The problem is how, the countervailing value analysis, what value do you put on those homeowners? Absolutely. In terms of building a, metal wall basically between their building and the street. I mean,
That's
it's.
And that's the aesthetic loss, absolutely.
Aesthetic loss is significant.
That's right.
Yeah,
I don't know how you put a number on that, but yeah, the shade, true, the shade in the grass, certainly a good point.
No, I think it's a really it's a big point because this, that we have to remember this city center development is not supposed to negatively impact our residents.
Right.
None of them. Now, there's going to be some negative impacts. There'll be probably more parking on the street inside of this condominium development, just because people will park in front of people's condos and walk over to the square. So there will be some, there'll be some lifestyle impacts that we don't intend to have, but they will happen. But if we put in something where we're designing, they've got a nice boulevard in front of or to the side of their condos now, and we're changing in such a way that any kind of view that they used to have is gone. I mean, it doesn't start out as the number one idea. If it becomes so important that we have to do it, then we needed to consider it. But I think at this point, we still have time to do some planning and try to figure out, what do we really need to do?
Yes, sir, we certainly do have time.
Yes, Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, and Mr. Mayor, I did some initial engineering calculations.
That's helpful.
They'll be confirmed.
Did you stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night?
I did.
Okay, all right, then go ahead.
I think you'll find if you do parallel parking in front of the condos, you'll probably lose a total of 11 to 12 parking spaces by going horizontal. But then you'll also avoid some claims from residences for
diminution value of their property.
Yeah. So that's the legal aspect.
I personally favor the idea of parallel parking unless it's just a crisis and we just can't have parallel parking on the south side in front of the condos. Because the idea of having somebody pull in there with their traffic, with their headlights blowing in, into the side of the condo, probably in bedrooms, is just not, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Brainerd Watson.
I'm just gonna put it out there. I'll probably end up having to recuse myself because I own a property over there. And I will tell you that the HOA's whole goal and thought process over the last 3 years in anticipation of what's going on over here has been, how do we make our community look better, to be a better part of this community, to serve, to match, to look good, to complement what's going on. And so I feel like it, in good faith, I'd hope you would meet with the HOA.
Glad to.
And let's work together and come up with some kind of reasonable way of dealing with it that doesn't turn our properties into the blight of the neighborhood, which is an initial
Clear, I mean, clearly 10 or 11 spaces could be important, but they're not as important as neighborhood. Sure. Councilman James.
We never talked about option C, and while I appreciate that, you putting that on the agenda, I have been to cities with back installs, they do work there, but they're very confusing if you haven't seen them, and so in the fact that we already have 45-degree pull-ins in the square, the fact that we're gonna do that around Camelback Park, we need to be consistent, we need to be the same throughout the whole city, so. Appreciate you putting it out there, but.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anything else, or we want to direct city? Otherwise, I think you know where we're coming from, right?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, then we'll go on to item number M, which is a consideration of the, is it Delana May mixed use downtown building.
Thank you, Mayor. I forgot to mention it, but, you know, all things considered, I've been here 51 weeks. Next week is the anniversary. And if you told me within that first year what I'd be doing and having vertical mixed use condos, but restaurants, retail, I would have taken a pay cut, quite frankly. Don't write that down.
On the record,
right?
Oh, man.
Well, we gotta pay for 10 parking places now, so.
Yeah.
It could be a problem.
So we've shown you this several times across the different parcels that have developed. This is the preliminary design. This is not done. There are corrections to be made. There's a conversation to be had. This is our opportunity to not only provide the applicant the technical review from staff, but also your comments and the comments of Design Review Board, who saw this 2 weeks ago. So this is Litchfield Square. These are lots 13 and 14 directly surrounding City Hall. This is a 3-story mixed-use building. There's 20,000 square feet of retail, restaurants, and office space on the ground floor. There are 20 condo units ranging up to 4,000 square feet in size on the second and third floors. The breakdown is as follows. There are 2 4-bedroom units, 8 3-bedroom units, 8 2-bedroom units, 2 1-bedroom units, and poor Marcia Stockwell here has not slept in 6 months trying to work on all this information. Marcia's here on behalf of the Pointer family. They are in Tahiti, so they were unable to join you this evening. They would also certainly appreciate me telling you that Delana May is the middle names of their 2 daughters and the emphasis of this project. We're jumping right into the elevations, as it were. This is the black and white. I have renderings that follow. Again, this is a preliminary design. We have had lively discussions, I would call it, getting to the point we are today. We are not at the finish line by any means. I think we're in the middle of the marathon. One of the hardest things to do is that this will be the most massive in scale building, and certainly the longest building that we've seen thus far. I think the Heritage Partners is a grouping of 4 buildings that's somewhat connected with breezeways. The Rudolpho building is somewhat centered and smaller in scale as far as all directions. This is going to be the biggest by far, and certainly cast a shadow across the street and provide lots of people lots of shade in the park and sitting along those storefronts enjoying the restaurants. And so I'm not going to dwell too much on the black and whites. We'll get to the better imagery in the next few slides. Here's a look at the site plan. Again, City Hall is right here at the corner. We are bounded by Wigwam to the south, Honeysuckle to the north, Desert to the east, and La Loma to the west. The entirety of that bulk of building that you saw on the previous slide is at the north end of the site. That is in anticipation of putting these buildings towards the park. It's the way that the Heritage Partners development was. The parking is behind the building, away from the park. Same with the Rudolpho project. Parking is away from the park, building is in front. The park is the emphasis. It is the center. It is intentional that these buildings essentially create the district, and the cars that have to go somewhere go further away. The other thing of note with this is if you've driven either of these roads, these driveways are in place today. The one here on the west is the one that is our back entry into our parking lot. As part of this proposal and on their property of lot 14, those would be now the gated entry points for the resident parking. Those 20 condos have 20 garages that go with it. The ones here in the north have the benefit of not only a two-car garage or a one-car garage, depending on the unit, but they also have 20-foot driveways. I've never seen this before, and I called it out to DRB, and I'll call it out to you tonight. I've never seen landscaping placed between driveways like this. I don't know why I've never done it in all my years of doing it. I will now insist on it on every project going forward. It is the little touches that you'll see in this project, like the name, like the materials chosen, that really makes the difference and why we're excited that we're bringing it for you tonight to talk and have the initial discussion. We, when we created lot 15, which is available, if anyone's listening, litchfieldpark.gov, click on the Litchfield Square button, click RFP. You can talk to us about lot 15 as well, which is where City Hall is today. Why exactly we orphaned ourselves to the level we did has created a parking deficiency. We are working with the pointers and with Marcy to look at a lot line adjustment in order to create a bit of a parking field for us. We do not want to take any more than we have to because the vitality of the project really depends on them using up all of that land on lot 13 and lot 14. So we're close, we think, on this, but again, this is your first look at the preliminary designs. On the east side, the private gate is set back in order to put the call box for deliveries, for trash, for visitors that are coming in. And that creates the opening for the parking lot to be used, not only for his businesses, but as we know, in Litchfield Square, all parking is for all patrons of all of the lots. Here's just an up close look at that same image, just to get a sense of the red line is our current lot 15. And again, it's kind of in the middle of our parking field. You can see the Public Works building that is getting ready to move out of the way in order for this to be successful. Here's a look at the north end. Again, there's a breezeway, and I'll show you the renderings that show this all in 3D that connects the, let's call it the public side, the restaurant side, to that private area where the residents have. The residents have their own dedicated hallway when they leave their garage to get to their units. The commercial businesses have their own dedicated hallway in order to provide service for deliveries and that sort of thing. Elevator towers as well, and stairwells that get up to the units as well. As far as renderings go, bottom image is if you were at the Blue Star Moms Memorial looking south. Again, the storefronts are on the bottom level. That breezeway is right here in the middle. The hardest thing with a building this size and with floor plans that somewhat dictate the exterior shape is you get repetition. And we're very cognizant of the fact that you slice this building in half, you're not sure which was left and which one's right. There is a little bit of a difference, but we think, again, this is an ongoing conversation. You can see here's one ridge line versus two of the larger ridge lines over here. And each one of these units all have outdoor patio spaces as well. The proposed gymnasium or gym for the residents is here on the second floor. Marcy can probably talk about this better than I could, and she's here to assist as needed. The third floor is an outdoor space. Think weddings, think parties. The Pointer family has been discussing cold plunges, chef-driven meals for the residents, all sorts of things as part of their condo association. And if I had not mentioned before, these are condo units. These are condo units. These are condominiums per se. Looking at the south side, this is if you're standing on Wigwam Boulevard. You will not have this view, however, because of the parking lot and their perimeter wall. In order to keep their residents and their belongings and their cars contained, there is a wall that is not shown on this rendering. This just gives you a sense of if you were to see through that wall, like Superman, which is out on July 11th in theaters near you. And this shows the fence line as well for that private access, again, to the residents only. The stairwells, we appreciate them extruding, but not being tacked on. This is something people get wrong often. This is not a service stairwell. This is not a fire exit. This is a grand entry feature. You'll see that at both ends as well. And those garage units with their roof lines all dedicated here. I don't have an image of the freestanding parking or the freestanding garage that's on the south side. Those again do not have driveways, but are dedicated garage spaces. Right now, white box, we'll probably need to do a little better than white box, and we'll have that as part of your final design in August, we hope. As far as materials go, we're close. I kid you not, there are 6 different colors of white being proposed in Litchfield Square. I'm trying to get that down to at least 1, maybe 2. It's the same with the roof. We do appreciate differences in harmony in design. Or 6 shades of white is probably too many to accomplish a unified downtown appearance as if you were in a district. We do not want this to look less cohesive. We don't want this to look as though it's been through changes over decades. This is something grand and timeless. So we're trying to nail that down. You can see just the little inlays of tile that are being done. These inlays of tile are around the storefronts on the ground floor, and the accent colors are very much that Spanish colonial, that Santa Barbara look that we're after. So there are 8 stipulations for this recommendation. This recommendation does not move this project forward. This recommendation moves this project back to design review board for a final conceptual, and then to you as the approver of those final conceptuals, we hope in August of the next month. I'll be happy to read the 8 stipulations for you, and then if anyone would like to make a motion, they don't need to regurgitate my 8 items. 1, a building permit issued by the city will be required before any construction to occur. 2, I should state all, excuse me for my typo, all offsite improvements shall be completed in accordance with the development agreement subject to the approval of City Council. Think of the angled parking on Wigwam. There are improvements on Honeysuckle that have not been completed, like the paver path is not in yet. There are EV charging stations that have not been installed yet. As part of that development agreement, as part of the sale of this land, those sorts of off-site infrastructure that have not been completed will be done by the developer. In the same sense, Rodolfo had a similar situation last time we talked about this Litchfield Square. 3, curb modifications within Litchfield, within the city's right-of-way on Wigwam Boulevard will require full engineering review. It needs to be safe, is essentially was what they're saying. 4, a loading zone shall be provided 12 feet width, 45 in length, and a clearance height of 14 feet. This is something the Heritage Partners and Rodolfo has. This is something that is not being presented for you this evening, as again, this is the preliminary design. We need to make sure that we do find a place for the U-Haul to fit, as well as any sort of deliveries for those commercial businesses that don't obstruct traffic on our roads. 5, the following plans will be required during civil permit review to be submitted after design review approval. In Litchfield Square, you are not required to do a full site plan review. You are only required to do a design review. So these sorts of engineering reports are not included with this review. This is really the conceptual plans. You can see all of those items. Again, this is verbatim from the last project we did with Rodolfo. 6, civil and building plans may be reviewed concurrently if approved, but cannot be released for permitting until Goodyear Fire Department and Liberty Utilities have also approved the project. This is something that we've learned from and always want to put this out as soon as we can, that we do have partners in this that need to review and approve. We alone cannot make that decision. 7, this project is not showing any signage, but we always want to make sure that you understand that you are not approving any signage. We have a comprehensive sign program that dictates everything within Litchfield Square that all of these developments will need to adhere to. That's a different discussion on a different day. 8, and this is a bit of what I've talked about. I certainly can address this further if needed. Conceptual elevations on the south side of the building will be further revised to more closely resemble the north side of the building. Elevation design elements. Per the zoning requirements, buildings in Litchfield Square have 4-sided architecture. Again, happy to discuss further. Marcy's here as well to talk about anything of note in this. But again, a very big building, a very long building with repetitious elements make us a little bit worried, certainly on the garages as well. We understand that there are limitations of that. We don't want to tack on tackiness if it's avoidable, but we're not quite there yet once more on where we are today. Now with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I've put the same language for the recommendation here on this last slide.
Councilman Brandon Watson.
Could you go back to the picture with 4 I have a couple of comments. The first one, you said there's gonna be a wall providing privacy for the garages and security. From the street, will we see a huge, long expanse of wall?
So, Mayor, Councilmember Lisa, just bring your Watson, excuse me.
Okay.
Not yet first. From Wigwam Boulevard on the south side, you will see a parking lot, and behind parked cars, you will see a white wall. You'd see this white wall. We know some stucco people that have recently done another project in Litchfield Square that have put some very interesting and ornate inlays as part of that stucco. And I don't want to lead you on for the discussion, but maybe that is an option here. On the west end behind City Hall, within our parked cars, yes, it would be another area of a blank wall. There is a bit of landscaping that separates that. I'll go back right here.
Yeah, I would just like to note that we need to be they need to be very aware of, with the changes on Wigwam Boulevard, if we end up taking out the green trees and the grass, and we're left with a white wall that's a long expansive block, I think we need to be aware that we'll need to soften that with some architectural features or landscaping that does something to beautify it so that the view from that side is pretty. And then can you go back where the entrance, you talked about the gated entrance. I think it's on that one. I had a question now, I can't see it. Will access to this parking lot, not the gated portion, but this side, will be from both sides, or from the west side and the east side, or just the west side?
So, Councilmember Brainerd Watson, this is one of the other things that still makes this a very much preliminary design that we are working through. The current working idea is that this is an exit gate for the residents' use. We, the city, within our parking lot would have an emergency access gate that is a gate within a gate. We have asked the Pointer team to see if it is possible to replicate this angled entry on the east side to an angled entry on the west side to create a free and clear path for the city's use. The other thing that comes into play is Sparklets water truck, the trash truck, Amazon, UPS, USPS, all have a very known route that takes them back there. And especially with the trash truck picking up as well, a dead end parking for the city would be difficult.
Because this looks like they come in here and you're in this parking lot.
Yes.
And yet we're saying that that's a private gate.
Sorry if I've misstated. The private gate for the resident use is set back in order for their use. I'll show it here. I'll magnify that it's tucked in so that someone looking to park can still just bypass it and get in. Not the same case over here, but part of our working discussions.
Thank you.
Councilman James.
Just a few questions, Randy. Well, I guess compliment to the tremendous amount of work that's gone into this, and I don't think it's lost on any of us. This one before DRB last week.
Councilmember James, it was about 2 weeks ago, but yes.
What was the result? I mean, I haven't seen the minutes. What was the result of that? Or were the comments incorporated into this presentation? Was there a vote taken? What was the vote?
Councilmember James, I've been accused of not being direct enough in some of these responses, so I'll be direct in this response. We were somewhat baffled by the lack of comments given by DRB. The only known request was to have less windows facing south, which puzzled us a bit. They were concerned with solar gain going into those windows going south. However, those are bedroom windows, those are living room windows, and certainly we like windows. So this was an unfortunate discussion. We didn't get much out of them at this time.
Was there a vote?
I'm sorry?
Was there a vote taken or was it just?
There was a vote to continue to move it forward as they are the recommending body to City Council. So it is brought before you today with their recommendation to continue on this process.
Just to make sure,
something on it?
just to make sure council knows where we're at in this process, because this process was designed before some of you were on the council. So before we will go through and negotiate a DA, development agreement, and agree to sell a piece of property, before we'll do that, the preliminary step is for people to go through this process, bring in a design that is interesting enough that we feel it has potential. And it means that now we'll invest the time and effort to actually negotiate a development agreement and come to a purchase and sale agreement on the land. Those are all subject to final approval of the design itself by design review board and by the council. So design review board, it would have been helpful if they had thoughts that they brought those thoughts out, communicated them, not communicated them. The whole part of this process is to try to flesh out as much as we can the design elements that fit well in this plan and the design elements that maybe still need some work. So it would have been helpful if design review board had been more active in their role. And we're going to spend some time with them to make sure in the future that they understand what the role is supposed to be. Because the whole idea was to not get to the stage of doing a development agreement and getting ready to sell a piece of property if we were not happy with the design. So this is an unusual preliminary step. So what we're doing now tonight is we're not approving this design, but we're trying to get input from council about what you like about it, what you don't like about it. And then a decision that yes, we're close enough that it makes sense to go into the next step of the process, which is to negotiate a development agreement and a sale agreement of the land that then are conditional upon final approval of these designs.
Yes, sir. To that end, yes, I like it. I'm interested in it. That's my comments. I would like further comments from DRB the next time this comes forward to us. And also, there was two sticking points that jumped out to me is like a little bit further explanation about how that breezeway is going to work. It's when you look at how does it tie into the retail and to the residential, is there just more explanation there. And then also, it seems like that loading zone's a real key point of discussion. So making sure that that's out there. And those are my comments. But yeah, I think it's huge. It's a huge building and it's going to definitely change the landscape of our downtown area. And so doing our due diligence and making sure we get it right and making sure we do it in the best interest of not just our square, but all of our citizens is the goal of council. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a very important building for us. Okay, I think you've already had a turn, so Councilman Allen next.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I was really excited to see a project come in with condos, and those seem like very luxury condos, so I was excited about that. I did share Council Member Brainerd Watson's concerns about that long wall, and so I would for the parking, and I'm glad to see that they have landscape all around that. I think that that'll be really important. So I would look forward to seeing how you work with them on the breaking up the wall, so to speak, and the plans that they have for that landscape.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just would like to respond. I've been sitting on DRB, obviously. And our understanding was that this was very preliminary, that these weren't, they were conceptual plans. And so there wasn't an awful lot to approve other than the colors and the layout and the overall look of it, which there were lots of positive comments. The big concern was the wall, the back of the parking garage that, that's represented now is just a white box. And our question was answered with, it hasn't been designed yet, but we'll be taking that into consideration. So I don't think we had enough detail at DRB to give any real constructive feedback. The task we seemed or felt we were charged with was whether or not we're ready to pass it to council to give feedback. And knowing that we would see it again once the design was finalized or in the process of being finalized.
Councilman Clare.
I just, from a logistical point of view, I absolutely feel that loading zones, somehow we've got to have something for getting in and out. And real life is, if we're going to have restaurants and retail, they've got to have somewhere to put their waste that doesn't affect the residents. And there isn't anything like that on here to say how or where. Are they, we have a breezeway. If that's not gated off, they're going to try to go through there. We need to make sure all that is upfront throughout the thought process.
Council members, thank you.
Some comments? Yeah. My comments are similar, I think, to comments that have been made by staff. It's really important that we remember that four-sided architecture is very, very important. Because these buildings, while it's critical that they look good on the side of the park, so that people are using the park, when they look up and they see this building, they're impressed with the building itself and its facades. It is also important that the people who live in the neighborhood to the south, when they look north, they see a building that they want in their community, which means we don't really want what would normally be the back of a building. We want a building that has an interesting architecture and coloring to it, that it makes them happy too, that it's part of their neighborhood. Very difficult assignment. This is not an easy assignment, but I think we still need to do some work on getting some depth to this long building, basically. In terms of the walls, I think the wall can be made to be attractive. With design elements in the wall itself, architecture, and maybe with some partial view areas, so that you don't break up the starkness of this huge wall with some features that are interesting. So, and then the final thing is it is critical that we maintain enough parking around City Hall, that we're able to use City Hall both for its intended use today, but also for what it may be in the future, which we don't even know what that is. But it could be a retail business easily. Or it might not be. It might always be some building that the city uses. But we'll need to have enough parking around it. I'll leave it to staff, but obviously you've got parking on the street on the two sides, and you have parking that's going to be in the parking lot. We're going to have to make sure if we have to adjust the lot lines a little bit, or work on having the parking be obviously shared between that parking lot and the city more. There may be different ways to be creative about how to do that, but there has to be enough parking so the city can continue to use that building and it be effective.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I would, I think that we need to have the project. I'm in favor of moving the project forward for the next steps, which is development agreement and negotiation of the land sale, and finalizing this design so it can come back, because the design will be part of the process of improving the DA. So. Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor.
Understand the motion?
I'll figure it out.
All right. Any further discussion?
Tell him I'm still blocked
All those in
out.
favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Vice Mayor? Aye. Aye. Okay, so the ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you.
Next item. Let's see how we're gonna do this. We have 2 items, 2.5 items that are personnel type items. The question is whether we want to go into executive session on these before we discuss them in public. I don't know if if it's necessary to do that on the city clerk's contract, but I'll take direction from council. Does anybody on the council want to go into executive session to discuss the city clerk contract?
I would like to,
You would?
just because it all ties together. I have a comment as it relates to the city
All right.
managers.
Then is there a motion to go into executive session pursuant to item 10 on our agenda? B and C, specifically items 9, N, O, and P. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're gonna go to executive session on that. It's okay, we're ready to go. So we're back in session and we're gonna look at item N, the 9N, approval of the city clerk contract. Is there a motion to approve the contract as presented in the packet for the city clerk Terry Roth effective July 1st, 2025?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous ayes. Next item is the approval of the city manager goals. Is there a motion to approve the city manager goals for 2025-26 as presented in the packet?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? And those goals had the addition that I had, because the first ones did not, second ones did.
Yes,
Said
we
I-
did.
Yes, correct. All right. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, goals are carried. Next item is to approve the city manager contract as presented in the packet without the addition of the paragraph involving a performance bonus.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on the contract? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are done, and now I have the power. We're adjourned.